Every single morning, millions of people wake up and immediately perform a simple action that Buddhist physicians have warned about for centuries. This action, so common that it seems completely harmless, creates a dangerous shock to the heart that can trigger cardiac events within hours. Medical professionals are now confirming what ancient wisdom has taught for generations. The first 60 seconds after waking up represent the most critical period for heart health in the entire day. The human heart, after hours of rest during sleep, exists in a delicate state of transition. Blood pressure remains low, heart rate stays minimal, and the entire cardiovascular system operates in what Buddhist medicine calls the gentle awakening phase. During this vulnerable window, certain actions force the heart to shift from deep rest to full activity in mere seconds, creating stress that accumulates over days, weeks, and months until serious problems emerge. What makes this morning danger so shocking is its universal nature. This is not about pre-existing conditions or genetic factors. Every person, regardless of current health status, places strain on their heart through common morning behaviors that seem completely innocent. The bedroom itself, the first movements upon waking, the initial actions taken before even leaving bed, all of these contain hidden risks that Buddhist wellness practices have identified through centuries of observation. The statistics prove alarming. Heart attacks occur most frequently between 6 a.m. and noon, with the highest concentration happening in the first 3 hours after waking. Stroke risk peaks during these same morning hours. Blood pressure spikes reach dangerous levels immediately upon rising. These patterns are not coincidental. They reflect the cardiovascular stress created by improper awakening practices that violate natural body rhythms. Ancient Buddhist physicians understood something modern medicine is only now confirming. The transition from sleep to wakefulness must happen gradually, respecting the heart's need for gentle reawakening. Shocking the system through abrupt movements, sudden temperature changes, or immediate stress triggers can create cardiac strain that manifests hours later as chest pain, irregular heartbeat, breathing difficulty, or even heart attack. The 7 morning mistakes revealed in this video represent the most common and most dangerous threats to heart health that occur before most people even finish their morning routine. Buddhist medicine has studied the connection between morning practices and heart health for over 2,000 years. Ancient texts describe detailed observations of how the body transitions from sleep to wakefulness, documenting the cardiovascular changes that occur during this critical period. These teachings, developed through generations of careful study, identified specific actions that protect the heart and specific behaviors that endanger it. Modern cardiology now validates these ancient insights. Medical research confirms that the first hour after waking represents peak vulnerability for cardiac events. The body undergoes dramatic shifts in blood pressure, heart rate, hormone levels, and blood thickness during this transition period. Actions that force rapid changes in these systems create measurable stress on the heart that accumulates over time. Before diving into the 7 dangerous morning mistakes that could affect heart health within hours, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This helps spread vital health information to others who need this protection. Even more importantly, comment below with the mantra, "My heart awakens gently and safely each morning." This affirmation begins the process of retraining morning habits while creating positive intention for cardiovascular health. The community built through shared commitment to heart protection provides support and motivation for implementing these life-saving changes. Buddhist philosophy teaches that the body operates according to natural rhythms that must be respected for optimal health. These rhythms govern everything from breathing patterns to heartbeat, from blood flow to hormone production. When daily actions align with these natural cycles, health flourishes. When habits violate these rhythms, disease develops gradually until symptoms finally appear. The morning transition from sleep to wakefulness represents one of the most critical rhythm shifts in the entire day. During sleep, the body enters what Buddhist medicine calls the restoration phase. Heart rate slows significantly, often dropping to 50 or 60 beats per minute in healthy individuals. Blood pressure decreases, reducing strain on cardiovascular tissue. Blood vessel walls relax, allowing easier circulation. The entire system shifts into maintenance and repair mode, addressing damage accumulated during waking hours. This restoration phase serves essential purposes. The heart muscle itself receives repair. Small tears in blood vessel walls get patched. Inflammation throughout the cardiovascular system reduces. Stress hormones that elevate during daily activities decrease to minimal levels. The blood itself becomes thicker and less fluid as the body conserves resources during rest. All of these changes reflect the wisdom of the body's natural healing processes. The challenge emerges when this deeply relaxed state must transition back to full waking function. The heart needs time to increase its beating rate gradually. Blood pressure requires gentle elevation rather than sudden spikes. Blood vessel walls must slowly adjust from relaxed to active states. The thickened blood needs gradual thinning to prevent clot formation. Rushing this process through abrupt awakening creates cardiovascular stress that traditional wisdom recognizes as dangerous. Buddhist wellness practices developed specific protocols for healthy awakening precisely because physicians observed the consequences of improper transitions. Historical texts describe cases where individuals experienced sudden chest pain, breathing difficulty, or even collapse shortly after rising too quickly from sleep. These observations, accumulated over centuries, identified patterns connecting morning behaviors to heart problems that manifested hours or even days later. The concept of shock awakening versus gentle awakening appears throughout Buddhist medical literature. Shock awakening describes any practice that forces the cardiovascular system from deep rest to high activity too rapidly. This includes sudden movements that spike heart rate instantly, immediate stress or anxiety that floods the body with stress hormones, exposure to extreme temperatures that force circulation changes, or consumption of stimulants that artificially accelerate heart function before natural awakening completes. Gentle awakening, in contrast, respects the body's need for gradual transition. This approach allows heart rate to increase slowly over several minutes rather than seconds. Blood pressure rises steadily rather than spiking dramatically. Stress hormones remain low until the cardiovascular system fully awakens. Temperature changes occur gradually, giving blood vessels time to adjust. This mindful approach to morning transition protects the heart from shock while allowing full activation to occur safely. Modern medical research validates these traditional concepts completely. Studies using continuous heart monitoring reveal that abrupt awakening creates measurable stress patterns in cardiac function. Blood pressure measurements show dangerous spikes when people jump immediately from bed. Blood tests confirm that stress hormone levels surge when morning routines rush the awakening process. Emergency room statistics demonstrate that heart attacks and strokes concentrate in the morning hours, particularly in the first 3 hours after waking, with highest risk in the first 60 minutes. The 7 morning mistakes detailed in this video represent the most common violations of healthy awakening principles. These behaviors appear so normal, so universal, that most people never question them. Yet each mistake creates specific forms of cardiovascular stress that accumulate over time. Some mistakes shock the heart directly through sudden demands for increased function. Others trigger stress responses that flood the system with harmful hormones. Still others create conditions where blood clots form more easily or where existing cardiovascular damage worsens. Understanding these dangers serves practical purpose. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death globally, claiming more lives than all cancers combined. Many cardiac events occur without warning in people who considered themselves healthy. The morning vulnerability window represents a critical intervention point where simple behavior changes can provide significant protection. By eliminating these 7 mistakes and replacing them with heart protective practices, anyone can reduce their cardiac risk substantially, regardless of current health status or family history. When the first dangerous morning mistake happens before conscious awareness even begins, the alarm clock, specifically the jarring sound of traditional alarm tones, creates immediate cardiovascular stress that can affect heart function for hours afterward. Buddhist philosophy teaches that awakening should occur naturally through gradual return of consciousness. The body possesses internal mechanisms that bring awareness back slowly, allowing all systems, including the heart, to transition safely from sleep to wakefulness. When loud, sudden noises force instant alertness, this natural process gets violated completely. Traditional alarm sounds trigger the body's fight or flight response instantly. The sudden loud noise registers as potential danger, causing immediate release of adrenaline and cortisol into the bloodstream. These stress hormones command the heart to accelerate rapidly, often jumping from 60 beats per minute to 90 or 100 beats per minute within seconds. Blood pressure spikes by 20 to 30 points almost immediately. Blood vessels constrict suddenly to redirect blood flow to muscles for emergency response. For people with strong, healthy hearts, this shock creates strain, but usually no immediate damage. However, for those with existing cardiovascular weakness, even undiagnosed weakness, this sudden stress can trigger serious problems. The rapid heart rate increase forces the heart muscle to work much harder instantly, increasing oxygen demand before blood flow has adequately increased. The blood pressure spike strains vessel walls that may already contain plaque buildup. The stress hormones make blood more likely to form clots that could block already narrowed arteries. Medical research confirms these dangers clearly. Studies measuring heart function during alarm awakening show irregular heartbeat patterns, stress markers in the blood, and elevated cardiac risk indicators that persist for several hours. Emergency room data reveals increased heart attack admissions during morning hours, correlating with typical alarm clock times. The cardiovascular system requires 15 to 30 minutes to safely transition from sleep to full waking function, but alarm clocks force this transition into mere seconds. The solution involves switching to gentle awakening methods. Progressive alarm sounds that increase gradually in volume over several minutes allow the body to wake naturally without shock. Light-based alarms that simulate sunrise trigger gentler hormonal awakening. Best of all, allowing natural awakening without any alarm by maintaining consistent sleep schedules lets the body complete its own safe transition process. The second dangerous morning mistake occurs within moments of opening the eyes. Reaching immediately for the smartphone to check messages, emails, news, or social media creates psychological stress that translates directly into cardiovascular strain before the heart has properly awakened. Ancient Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of peaceful morning consciousness. The first thoughts and emotions experienced after waking set the tone for the entire day, while also affecting immediate physical function. Beginning the day with calm, positive awareness allows the body's systems to activate gradually and harmoniously. Starting with stress, worry, anxiety, or mental agitation forces the cardiovascular system into high alert before completing its safe awakening process. Modern smartphones deliver concentrated doses of stress-inducing information. Work emails demanding immediate attention, news headlines describing disasters or conflicts, social media posts triggering comparison or inadequacy, text messages containing problems requiring solutions. All of this information floods the brain within minutes of waking. Each stress-inducing message triggers release of cortisol and adrenaline, the same stress hormones that the alarm clock already released. The cardiovascular impact proves significant. Heart rate increases further beyond what alarm awakening already caused. Blood pressure elevates additional points as mental stress compounds physical awakening stress. blood vessel constriction intensifies, reducing blood flow even as the heart demands more oxygen. The blood itself becomes more prone to clotting as stress hormones activate coagulation factors designed to prevent bleeding during perceived danger. Buddhist wellness practices specifically warn against allowing external stressors into consciousness during the vulnerable morning period. Traditional recommendations include spending the first 15 to 30 minutes after waking in calm, meditative awareness, allowing the mind and body to transition peacefully before engaging with external demands. This protected morning space lets the cardiovascular system complete its awakening process without additional stress burden. Research validates this wisdom completely. Studies comparing morning phone users to those who delay screen time for 30 minutes show dramatic differences in stress markers, blood pressure readings, and heart rate patterns. The phone checking group displays cardiovascular profiles associated with higher cardiac risk, elevated inflammation, and greater likelihood of heart rhythm irregularities. The protective effect of delaying phone use proves especially strong in people over 50 and those with existing heart conditions. Protection requires establishing morning boundaries. Keeping the phone outside the bedroom prevents automatic reaching. Setting specific times before which messages will not be checked creates protected morning space. Replacing phone checking with gentle activities like stretching, meditation, or peaceful contemplation allows proper cardiovascular awakening before engaging with external stressors. The third dangerous mistake involves the physical act of getting out of bed. Standing up suddenly after hours of lying horizontal creates a cardiovascular challenge that can prove dangerous during the vulnerable morning awakening period. Buddhist medicine describes how the body's blood distribution changes dramatically between lying and standing positions. During sleep, blood pools somewhat evenly throughout the body with no need to fight gravity. The heart pumps at minimal pressure because circulation requires less force. Blood vessels remain relatively dilated since no muscular activity demands increased blood flow. The entire system exists in a low-pressure, relaxed state. Standing up requires immediate cardiovascular adjustment. Gravity pulls blood downward into the legs and away from the brain and heart. To maintain adequate blood flow to vital organs, the heart must instantly increase its pumping force. Blood vessels in the lower body must constrict rapidly to prevent excessive pooling. Heart rate typically increases 10 to 20 beats per minute just from the position change itself. Blood pressure must rise significantly to ensure the brain receives sufficient oxygen. In young, healthy individuals with responsive cardiovascular systems, these adjustments happen smoothly and invisibly. The body compensates so effectively that no symptoms occur. However, in older adults, those with cardiovascular disease, people taking certain medications, or anyone whose system hasn't fully awakened yet, these adjustments may not happen fast enough. The result ranges from mild dizziness to dangerous drops in blood pressure that could cause falls, loss of consciousness, or strain on the heart itself. Traditional Buddhist practice recommends a three-stage awakening process for getting out of bed safely. First, while still lying down, stretch gently and breathe deeply for 1 to 2 minutes to begin activating circulation. Second, sit up slowly and remain seated on the edge of the bed for another 1 to 2 minutes while the cardiovascular system adjusts to the partial position change. Third, stand up gradually while holding on to something stable, allowing final adjustment to occur before walking. This entire process requires only 3 to 5 minutes, but dramatically reduces cardiovascular stress. Medical research supports this gradual approach strongly. Studies measuring blood pressure and heart rate during different bed exiting methods show that rapid standing creates significantly more cardiovascular strain than staged rising. Emergency data reveals that falls and fainting episodes occur most commonly in the morning within 30 minutes of getting out of bed, often related to inadequate cardiovascular adjustment to standing position. The elderly and those with heart conditions face highest risk from this preventable danger. The fourth dangerous morning mistake centers on temperature extremes, particularly hot showers taken immediately after waking. While the warm water feels pleasant and awakening, the cardiovascular impact creates stress that Buddhist medicine recognizes as potentially harmful. Ancient teachings explain that the body's temperature regulation system operates quite differently during sleep than during wakefulness. Core body temperature drops during the night, reaching its lowest point in early morning hours just before natural awakening. Blood vessels near the skin constrict to conserve heat, and circulation focuses on maintaining vital organ function rather than temperature regulation across the whole body. Hot water exposure forces immediate and dramatic cardiovascular response. Blood vessels near the skin must dilate rapidly to prevent overheating, redirecting large volumes of blood from the core to the body surface. This redistribution requires the heart to pump harder and faster to maintain adequate blood flow to the brain and other vital organs. Blood pressure initially spikes as vessels constrict to push blood outward, then may drop significantly as widespread dilation occurs. For a heart that hasn't fully awakened yet, these rapid changes create substantial strain. The danger increases further when hot showers end and cold air hits the body. This sudden temperature reversal forces another rapid cardiovascular adjustment in the opposite direction. Blood vessels must constrict quickly to preserve heat. Heart rate must increase further to maintain circulation through narrowed vessels, and blood pressure spikes again. This temperature whiplash creates double stress on the cardiovascular system within minutes. Buddhist wellness protocols recommend temperature moderation during morning routines. Lukewarm water for morning washing allows gentle activation of circulation without shocking the system. Alternatively, waiting 30 to 45 minutes after waking before showering gives the cardiovascular system time to fully awaken and become more resilient to temperature changes. Gradual temperature transitions, starting with warm water and slowly adjusting rather than immediate hot or cold, reduce cardiovascular stress substantially. Research measuring heart function during morning showers confirms these concerns. Hot shower exposure within 30 minutes of waking creates measurable cardiac strain markers, including elevated heart rate, blood pressure fluctuations, and stress hormone release. Risk proves especially high in people over 60, those with existing heart disease, and individuals taking blood pressure medications. Multiple cases of bathroom falls, chest pain, and even cardiac events have been linked to post-awakening hot shower exposure, validating the ancient warnings about morning temperature extremes. The fifth dangerous mistake involves reaching for coffee or other caffeinated beverages immediately upon waking, before the body has completed its natural awakening process. This widespread habit, while feeling necessary for many people, creates cardiovascular stress that Buddhist medicine warns against strongly. Traditional teachings explain that the body produces its own awakening hormones according to natural rhythms. Cortisol, the primary wake-up hormone, surges naturally within the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, providing energy and alertness without any external substances. This natural cortisol boost works synergistically with gradually increasing heart rate and blood pressure to create healthy awakening. Caffeine consumption interferes with this natural process problematically. The caffeine molecule stimulates immediate release of additional stress hormones, including more cortisol and adrenaline. It increases heart rate rapidly, often adding 15 to 20 beats per minute on top of the increase already occurring from natural awakening. It elevates blood pressure significantly, creating additional strain on vessels and heart muscle. It constricts some blood vessels while dilating others, forcing the cardiovascular system into patterns that don't align with natural awakening rhythms. The combined effect of natural awakening processes plus caffeine stimulation creates cardiovascular stress that exceeds what the just awakened heart should handle. Heart rate may jump excessively high, Blood pressure may spike into dangerous ranges temporarily, and the heart muscle must work much harder before it has fully transitioned from sleep state to active state. For people with underlying cardiovascular weakness, this combination can trigger chest pain, irregular heartbeat, or worse. Buddhist health practices specifically recommend waiting at least 1 full hour after waking before consuming caffeine. This delay allows natural awakening to complete, cortisol levels to reach their natural peak, and the cardiovascular system to fully activate before adding any artificial stimulation. When coffee or tea is consumed after this waiting period, the heart proves much more capable of handling the additional demands without excessive strain. Medical studies validate these timing recommendations clearly. Research comparing immediate coffee consumption to delayed consumption shows significant differences in blood pressure elevation, heart rate increases, and stress marker levels. Immediate caffeine creates substantially more cardiovascular impact than the same dose consumed 1 hour later. Additional research reveals that people who habitually drink coffee immediately upon waking show higher rates of heart rhythm abnormalities and elevated cardiac risk markers compared to those who delay consumption, even when total daily caffeine intake remains identical between groups. The sixth dangerous morning mistake involves skipping breakfast entirely or delaying food consumption for many hours after waking. While intermittent fasting has gained popularity, Buddhist medicine teaches that the morning hours require specific nutritional support for cardiovascular protection during this vulnerable awakening period. Ancient teachings describe how the body's energy systems depend on regular nourishment to maintain balance. After 6 to 8 hours without food during sleep, the body exists in a fasted state where blood sugar has dropped, energy reserves run low, and metabolic processes slow significantly. The morning awakening process requires considerable energy to reactivate all body systems, and the heart particularly needs adequate fuel to increase its workload safely. Skipping breakfast forces the cardiovascular system to operate under energy deficit during its highest demand period. When blood sugar remains low, the body must release stress hormones to mobilize stored energy reserves for fuel. These same stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, that have already been released for awakening, get produced in even higher amounts to compensate for lack of food. The elevated stress hormones increase heart rate further, raise blood pressure higher, and make blood more prone to clotting. Additionally, breakfast skipping has been directly linked to irregular heart rhythms, particularly a form called atrial fibrillation. The heart's electrical system becomes less stable when operating without adequate glucose for fuel, making abnormal rhythms more likely. These rhythm disturbances can trigger dangerous blood clot formation that could cause stroke or heart attack. Traditional Buddhist eating practices emphasize nourishing the body within 1 to 2 hours of waking with balanced food that provides steady energy. The ideal morning meal combines whole grains for sustained blood sugar, protein for stable energy release, and healthy fats that support cardiovascular function. This combination provides the heart with adequate fuel while avoiding sugar spikes that could create additional cardiovascular stress. Research supports breakfast importance strongly for heart health. Long-term studies following thousands of people show that regular breakfast eaters have significantly lower rates of heart disease, heart attack, and cardiovascular death compared to breakfast skippers. The protective effect appears especially strong in people over 50. Additional studies demonstrate that eating within 2 hours of waking helps stabilize blood pressure, normalize heart rhythm, and reduce inflammation markers associated with cardiovascular disease. Buddhist wisdom regarding morning nourishment proves validated completely by modern medical evidence. The seventh and perhaps most dangerous morning mistake involves rushing through the entire morning routine, trying to accomplish too much too quickly while the cardiovascular system remains vulnerable. This pattern of hurried mornings creates compound stress that Buddhist medicine recognizes as profoundly harmful to heart health.